Creating and running big cities in D&D can be overwhelming. There are so many streets, buildings, and people to detail, so much to keep track of, and the player characters could decide to visit any of them. If you're good at improvising, this is no problem. But if you're a planner and thinking about designing a fantasy city or running a city adventure raises your anxiety a bit, then this video is for you. Today, let's talk about how to make cities in D&D or other fantasy role-playing games easy to create and easy to run.
Cool nerd Mark.
This video is going to focus on creating cities as a setting for D&D adventures and preparing to run them. I'll go into detail on running city adventures in my next video, but for now I'm assuming that you may be thinking about a city in your own setting and needing to figure out what's there. Or maybe you're using a prepared setting and it's got a city, but it doesn't give you a lot of detail to work with. There are certainly city settings you can purchase that are very detailed, but that can sometimes be even more overwhelming. I have a second edition map of Waterdeep that's made of 10 poster maps, and it just about fills up an 8-foot by 10-foot tarp in my garage. One day I'll have a house that will be big enough to hang it up. I can see how the size of a city like that could be intimidating because it's so much to remember, and it's hard to know what parts to use and what parts to ignore. Today I'm going to talk about 4 steps for creating D&D cities that should make this process easier for you. For a similar process on small towns, you can check out my last video on small towns in D&D.
Cut a hole in a box.
Step 1, culture. Every city has a culture or flavor that makes it different from other cities. When people hear the word culture, they often think about different countries, but even within the same country, cities have their own distinct identities. Being in New York feels different from LA, and Washington, D.C. feels very different from Houston, Texas. This becomes even more noticeable when you travel internationally. I've only started traveling abroad in the last few years, but I've been to London, San Jose, Lagos, and Tbilisi. These are all large cities, and each one feels completely different. Culture is really about the vibe of the place. What does it feel like to be there? Think about the customs, traditions, values, architecture, food, and clothing you see. While it's helpful to understand the culture of your fantasy city, it's even better to show that culture through the world itself rather than explaining it directly to your players. For example, landmarks can say a lot about a city. This is the Mother of Georgia, a statue I noticed on my first night in Tbilisi while having dinner on a rooftop with my wife. Throughout the week, people kept bringing it up. She holds a sword in one hand and a bowl of wine in the other. The meaning is simple. If you come as a friend, you'll be welcomed with wine. If you come looking for trouble, you get the sword. That pretty much captured the feel of the city. People were warm and welcoming, but not to be messed with. When designing a fantasy city, start by deciding on its culture and flavor. That will make the rest of your design much easier. You can base it loosely on a real place you've experienced or researched, or create something entirely new. If you draw inspiration from real-world cultures, just aim to go beyond surface-level cliches and build something that feels lived in and specific. If each city in your world has its own distinct identity, your setting will feel vibrant instead of generic. Step 2, communities. Once you've settled on a flavor, it's time to think about communities. For this one, I want to give credit to Dottie from Mystic Arts, a YouTube creator I follow. I'll link his city video as a source. One of his key ideas is focusing on smaller units when building a city. One of the easiest ways to make a city feel manageable is to give yourself permission not to detail everything. If you've lived in a city, you probably haven't explored all of it. There are likely entire areas you've never even seen. Most people spend the majority of their time in just one neighborhood. When you think about it that way, designing a city isn't that different from designing a small town. You're just focusing on one community at a time. When I created Port Corvus, which I'll talk about later, I did sketch out the whole city and made some notes about different districts. But then I zoomed in on one district, Westcliff, and focused on 4 neighborhoods. Then I zoomed in even further on one neighborhood, the Stadium District, and detailed 10 buildings. That's it. A city of over 30,000 people, and I focused on 10 buildings. And I've run great adventures there. Will I eventually flesh out the rest of the city? Sure, but only when it becomes important. When you're designing a neighborhood, it's worth thinking about the flavor here too. For example, Seattle has several distinct neighborhoods. Fremont is quirky and artsy. Capitol Hill is known for nightlife and LGBTQ spaces. And Pike Place Market is busy, historic, and packed with tourists, food, and performers. When I designed my neighborhoods, I thought about their purpose. What is this area for? How does that shape the layout, the businesses, and the people who live there? That helped me shape the flavor of the neighborhood. That also helped me decide where to focus my attention when designing adventures, because some neighborhoods naturally become the gathering places for adventurers. Step 3, characters. Once you've chosen your starting neighborhood, it's time to think about who lives there. Since this is the place your players will spend time in, or maybe even live in, these characters become their neighbors. Some should be helpful, some mysterious, some difficult, and some so endearing that players may want to put down roots in this city. Just be aware, you don't get to choose their favorite NPC. It's often someone you didn't expect to matter, but suddenly they care about him or her. When this happens, lean into it. Spend your time developing the characters your players actually connect with. For each character, think about their purpose. Are they part of an adventure or part of the downtime between adventures? Different players engage with NPCs in different ways. Some enjoy chatting with the bartender, some just want a blacksmith to buy supplies from, and others are drawn to intrigue, like how the local alchemist may be tied to the Assassin's Guild. So give them options, but keep the number of NPCs manageable. Aim for about 3 to 5 that can serve as resources, and 3 to 5 that can tie into current or future storylines. And finally, step 4 is conflicts. When designing your city, decide if it's a refuge between adventures or a place where adventures happen. Personally, I like it to be both. Real cities have problems, and your neighborhood will feel more real if not everyone gets along. Now that you have your cast of characters, ask who gets along and who doesn't. Who has secrets? What are their motives? Thinking about these conflicts will not only add realism to your neighborhood, but it also generates adventure hooks. One reason I love city adventures is that they feel different from dungeons. In a dungeon, players expect to fight monsters and take their loot. In a city, that same behavior can lead to legal consequences, such as theft, assault, or even murder. That doesn't mean you can't have action, excitement, and adventure in a city. It just means that players have to be a bit more subtle and show a lot more discretion in their actions, but they also have more opportunities to use their social skills when intervening in the conflicts that you set up in your neighborhood. As an example, let me show you Port Corvus, a city I created for my world. I originally built it on the fly while playtesting Strange Tales for Small Towns. I knew I needed a capital near a river delta, so I added this massive waterfall cutting through the city. That made me think that I should have like an older, walled upper city and a newer, more industrial lower city. I also wanted some light steampunk flavors, so I added cable cars inspired by the ones that I saw in Georgia. Just like that, the city had an identity. Old traditions mixed with new ideas built around trade, technology, and innovation. From there, I zoomed in. I created one neighborhood called Stadium Bluff, perched right on the cliff near the waterfall. It has a stadium, of course, a skylift station, a fort, and a handful of shops and NPCs. At first, it was kind of a cool place, but then I decided I really needed to add some conflicts, and that really made it come to life. The hotel owner is deep in debt. The stadium is running a controversial event. A nearby church is protesting that event, while its leader tries to keep the peace. A school official is under pressure to resign for being involved. And one shop owner might be having an affair, or that might just be a rumor. Those small tensions turned it from a place that would be fun to visit into a story. You can download my city, Port Corvus, the Westcliff District, and the Stadium Bluff neighborhood 100% free at coolnerdmark.com or from DriveThruRPG if you search for Cool Nerd Adventures. I also wanted to do a quick shout out to Inkwell artists who did these awesome NPC pics that will be appearing in the next volume of Cool Nerd Adventures, which I'm calling the Spooky Ones. That'll be out in fall of 2026, hopefully in time for Halloween. She does very reasonably priced commissions, so if you're looking for someone to create custom NPC or player character art, check out her website for details. She didn't sponsor this video, but I think her stuff's really cool. Next week, I want to continue this discussion of cities by talking about designing city adventures. I hope you will join me, and also, I'll share a free download of a scavenger hunt set in Stadium Bluff, the neighborhood I talked about today.
Down, down the well, them heroes go to fight. And so we sit and drink here in Waterdeep tonight. Will they come back sinking rich? Will they succeed or will they fail? Oh well, I guess we'll never know till they go down, down the well.